So now let's look at the D10, which gives insights into her professional endeavors. The Lagna Lord Venus is here in the third house, a minor Dushtana house, because it requires extra will and effort to get things done. And so basically Venus here as the Lagna Lord is going to tell us how she relates to this aspect of her life, which is her professional endeavors. And this shows that she puts significant energy and effort into communication and dealing with her employees, but then also the aspects of business related to managing the manufacturing of her products and then also the marketing of her products. And so every day she has to talk to so many people, also drive here and there, and make sure that everything goes according to plan at the factory. And so on a daily basis she has to deal with lots of challenges that she needs to overcome. So now the important 10th Lord Jupiter is in the 10th house of responsibility and rising to prominence. Jupiter, of course, governs creativity and expansion, and it is here exalted in the 10th house, which is, of course, an auspicious house. And so this exalted 10th Lord provides her with the opportunity to achieve great success and prosperity in her business. Now the Karaka of the D10 is Saturn. Saturn is placed in the 7th house, and that emphasizes the importance of partnerships in her career. Saturn usually creates foundations and structure, and did of course the same here in her business, through a business partnership. However, Saturn is also debilitated, and this indicates that the foundation of a business partnership was flawed right from the beginning, right? In other words, she entered a business partnership with someone who was eventually not able to do their part properly. And so Jupiter may be exalted and brought all this growth and expansion, prosperity and recognition, but Saturn eventually revealed the huge flaws of her business partnership. And Saturn here, of course, also rules the important 12th house here of losses. And so because of her business partnership, she had to suffer a huge business failure. So here in the D10, we can see that the three key factors for determining the theme of the Varga really tells the story of her business. Right? We have the Lagna Lord Venus in the third, that makes her very dedicated and hardworking in her business. Jupiter here is exalted and brought all this growth and expansion, prosperity and recognition. But then Saturn eventually revealed the huge flaws of her business partnership. Right? Saturn here also rules the 12th house of loss, and so she had to suffer a huge business failure. Now, despite her challenges, she is not the one to give up easily. Jupiter is the planet that fights for what it believes is right, and Jupiter is exalted here in the 10th house, right, of rising to prominence and making a meaningful impact in the world. And so she shows a lot of resilience and looks quite positively into the future. In fact, it is here this exalted 10th Lord Jupiter that gave her a new opportunity to recover her losses and possibly achieve business success once more. Okay, so hopefully this time around she is a bit more wise in whom she selects as her business partner. The D12 is a very important Varga because it sheds light on the relationship with our parents and the story of life that we inherited from them. So if you want to know how your parents influenced you to be the person that you're right now, then look at the 12th house factors in the D12. And so she has the 12th Lord Venus here in the Lagna. And so this tells us that her parental heritage and her cultural background is very important to her. She really appreciates where she's from, how her parents brought her up. And one of the reasons she wants to do well in her business is to continue the success story of her family. The Lagna Lord Mars is here in the 5th house, another auspicious house. And it is also here in Pisces, and that tells us, of course, how she relates to this part of her life, of course, which is her parents and the family background. And so the Lagna Lord Mars here in the 5th house in Pisces tells us how she wants to be known by her family, and that is as an entrepreneur. She wants to be known for being, famous and successful through her creativity. And of course also she wants to be recognized, for her generosity as well. The karakas of the D12 related to the story that we inherited from our parents are Rahu and Ketu. Ketu reveals the security paradigm of our family, and Rahu the incompetence, lack and imbalance of our family. So here Ketu is in the auspicious 4th house in Aquarius, and also conjunct the 5th house of creativity. And so this indicates a past life artist, entrepreneur and public figure. Right? Saturn here is also in its own sign ruling Ketu. This shows that this basically indicates a high ability, to make a success out of herself, coming from her past life. And that is also the ability that her parents passed on to her, right, in her family through their example. Now there's also something else that her parents passed on to her, and that is here Rahu in the auspicious 10th house in Leo, and the 11th house of groups and networking. And so far, we have mostly put the blame on her business partner, but here in the D12, we can see the flaw that she inherited from her family, right? And that is that of incompetent leadership, okay? So Rahu is here in the 10th house of power and authority, conjunct 11th house, the 11th house, which is her community, and in Leo, which of course has to do with leadership. And so the ancestral trauma is caused by incompetent leadership. And the reason is quite simple, right? She herself doesn't have the qualities of a real leader. And so she ends up working with people who pretend to know what they're doing, but who ultimately lack the skills and integrity required for success. Right? Rahu in Leo always indicates an exaggerated desire for personal recognition, but without the solid foundation to back it up. And so her tendency has always been to rely on those who exude confidence, but who lack competence. And ultimately, this goes much deeper because those people ultimately reflect her own struggle to be a leader, right? So she is drawn to people because they mirror her own unresolved insecurities about leadership and power. And to break this pattern, what she needed to do is cultivate her own leadership ability and move beyond, the superficial traits of, those in power, right? And develop the courage and wisdom to lead as a real leader with authenticity, okay? And then when she is able to do that, then she can start to attract business partners who are actually capable and who are reliable and who are able to, truly support her vision, okay? Then what will happen is then she can finally break free from this karmic cycle that has plagued not only herself actually with regards to business failure, but also her entire ancestral lineage.